I'll start. First of all, thanks to the organisers for having me here today. Delighted to be with you at this, what seems to be a hugely successful event. Certainly judging by the traffic coming in this morning, it's very popular and there's lots of people here, so great to be here. What I'm going to do for you over the next 20 minutes is just share a presentation that I gave recently in New York, outlining what our strategic vision is for the industry in Ireland. So I hope you find the slides interesting. I'll take about 20 minutes and happy to answer questions at the end if that is helpful to you. Strategy is called Molecules Make a Difference, and this refers to the scope of the industry in Ireland, including small molecule manufacture and more recently biologics or biotech manufacture, sometimes called large molecule, which is becoming increasingly important for the sector here in Ireland. Like most associations, we have a mission. I'm not going to read it to you, but given the event we're at, one of our primary aims is to make Ireland a centre of excellence for development and supply of pharmaceutical and related products in the world. So we see Ireland very much as being a hub for the industry, and I suppose given the current environment that we're in, this is something we need to work hard, working with all our partners, including government, to protect as well as we can. That's the organisation that I'm director of. Includes most manufacturers who operate in this country are involved in our association and sit on our board. I don't need to dwell on that. Interested to look at how the industry has developed in this country. It's relatively recent. Started out very much in the chemicals or API sector, with chemical manufacturing coming into this country in the 1960s, mainly due to the good work of government and also IDA Ireland in making Ireland attractive for this industry. Since the 60s it has grown. It's integrated forward into what we call drug product manufacture or medicines, and today the country is becoming a recognised centre of excellence for biotech manufacture, for supply chain management, and increasingly we're seeing development emerging close to manufacturing, and we very much see this as being the sweet spot for this country to be a hub for development and manufacturing, thereby I suppose retaining value and also attracting as many new entities or new molecules into this country for manufacture and launch as we can. This is, I think, a differentiating factor that as a country we need to work on, and as an industry we do. I know I heard Barry speaking earlier on at the earlier event, referring to the amount of investment coming into the country at the moment. There's been a significant lift in investment. There are some companies behind me, that slide goes out of date as soon as I put it up. There have been more investments since that's been prepared. But in short, we're looking at anywhere in the region of 5 billion euros worth of capital investment ongoing in the country at the moment, either through new investments, existing investments, or investments that are completing. So we've had a significant uplift. And this on the back of what we would have called our patent cliff environment, where we saw a drop in investment and a drop in output, mainly as a result of blockbuster drugs going off patent. Recently that trend has been reversed, and if you look at the investments behind me, you'll see most of these are large molecule or biotech type investments, and this I think is testimony to the country, to the government and to the industry to be able to attract what is viewed as being, I suppose, the high-tech or cutting-edge end of the industry at this moment in time. So it's looking positive at the moment for the country. We launch strategy documents on a regular basis. The one that we launched, which I'm speaking to now, Molecules Make a Difference, was the fourth in a series. The reason we do this is to position the country as a centre for investment. It's used to promote Ireland overseas. It's used to inform government, and it's used, I suppose, as a calling card to all our stakeholders. And it's a distillation of the views of the industry, or what we think are key issues for the sector, or challenges, as is referred to in the title of my talk. So what I'll do in a second is go through 6 challenges that we've outlined in that document, which is available on our website if you'd like a copy of it, or I can email one to you, and that'll summarise for you what we see as being the issues facing this industry, some of which have been accentuated by recent political developments. At a glance, very important sector. We export in and around 60 billion euros worth of goods from the entire sector, both pharmaceutical, chemical and allied products. That's over half the goods leaving the country, so it's very important as an exporter. We employ around about 28,000 people directly now. The recent report published by the expert group on future skills needs projects a further 8,000 people required to work in the industry between now and around about 2020. So we're very much in an expansionary mode. If you go to any IDA presentation, they'll tell you that 8 of the top 10 manufacturers are located here. In short, Ireland is viewed as being one of the major centres for manufacture for this industry globally, and it's viewed as being a global hub for manufacturing and a very important industry for this country and one globally. So I think we're lucky to have it, and it's something that we should nurture and protect as much as we can. So looking at some of the challenges or the issues that we need to deal with as an industry and as a country, competitiveness remains one of the most important issues for any industrial sector, especially ours. Taxation is debated often in relation to most foreign direct investment, whether that's corporation tax, R&D tax credits, so on and so forth. And these remain very important competitive tools for this country. So a competitive rate of corporation tax is highly desirable for this industry. Enhancing investment in research and development is highly desirable for this industry. But also another issue around tax, which is coming up more and more, is the issue of personal taxation. These are good employers, they pay well. Our personal taxes are punitive at the higher level at the moment. And we've said to government many times this is an issue that needs to be addressed. And we believe in the current environment, it's more urgent that this is addressed if we're to continue attracting the talent that we need to work in this industry. It's highly invested. It's what we call a very sticky investment, and there's about replacement value is at least 40 billion euros, probably more. So to move this industry is not something that would be taken lightly, and that's important, especially in light of the recent statements made by now President Trump of the USA, especially in relation to the pharma sector. Talent. We spend a lot of time working on the issue of talent within BPCI. Talent is the lifeblood of the industry, but as the industry grows, talent becomes a challenge and talent becomes an opportunity. So we work to encourage the study of science, technology, engineering and maths at second and third level. We work to ensure that enough trained and highly skilled people are able to work in the sector. And this is an area where we've, as an industry association, worked closely with universities, institutes of technologies, ETBs, government, to try and ensure that we have the pipeline of people that we need. As I mentioned earlier in my presentation, the Expert Group on Future Skills Needs, which is a government-sponsored body, published a comprehensive report on the talent requirements of the sector in August of last year. Very comprehensive report with a number of very sound recommendations. We have an action plan for skills we've launched ourselves, and we are working through those recommendations at the moment. We're working with government and with the educational system, universities, regional skills forums, so on and so forth, to ensure that we have, and we believe we will have, the right people to work in this industry. We're at a manufacturing conference. Manufacturing excellence and innovation is one of the key competitive planks of the sector here in Ireland. I noticed that Rotopharm, part of Milan, won the Shingo Silver Award, I think, yesterday, which is a significant achievement for that company. And many of the sites in Ireland are here and stay here because of their prioritisation of operational excellence, lean manufacturing, and all that goes with that. As many drugs come off patent, they enter the generic space, and you have to be very competitive to be able to manufacture those sorts of products. High-profile product was Lipitor, manufactured by Pfizer, came off patent. They still make Lipitor in Cork, and that company has reduced its cost base significantly by applying these principles. In fact, as far as I know, they now make more Lipitor there than they made before the drug came off patent. So that's a testimony to that site and the people who work there, that what can be done by working together is significant, and it needs to be done if we're to hold on to and secure this sector. I mentioned our partners in the academic world. We employ over half of our workforce have some form of third level qualification. They have degrees, they have certificates, and it's very important that we ensure that people who come into the industry are well educated and also have the other skills that people need to have in the industry, whether these be the skills of communication, leadership, so on and so forth. And it's important we work with our academic community to ensure that that works, and also that we can help universities and IoTs where we can with placements of graduates, placements of postgraduates, to ensure that it works. We're an industry that relies on science, so it's very important that science is strongly supported in this country. Skills I mentioned already, as well as the issue of attracting people into the industry and talent. We need to invest in the continual development of people who work in the industry. We operate a skill net. We sponsor a skill net through BPCI, and that focuses on ensuring that people who work in the industry are trained and are able to deliver on an increasingly demanding regulatory-driven environment. So it's imperative that those who work in the industry are kept up to date, and that where possible we use that to, I suppose, deepen and broaden the footprint of the industry in this country, and that includes more investment in development, more investment in innovation. People might have heard me speak about the issue of compliance and regulation. This is a very important issue for the sector here in Ireland. This is a regulated industry. We're making medicines. Medicines are given to people who are unwell or are sick, so it's vital that every medicine that you receive in the hospital or medical health situation is perfect. Therefore, we have an enormous amount of regulatory oversight. We've heard of the FDA, that's the US-based Food and Drugs Administration. We have our own HPRA, formerly Irish Medicines Board, based here in Ireland. We also have environmental regulations, so we have the Environmental Protection Agency. We have health and safety regulations, so we have the Health and Safety Authority. And as an industry, we pride ourselves on compliance and going better than compliance. And as in terms of quality-based regulation, Ireland is recognised as being probably the leading global location for compliance, and that's very important when it comes to attracting new investment. But it's also important when we talk about the issue of retaining investment here. You can have competitive rates of corporation tax, you can have good people, but if you can't make the product according to the regulations, that means nothing. Because mistakes in this industry are expensive, and in many cases can be the reason for companies closing operations or relocating operations. So when you hear me speak about the stickiness of the industry, regulatory compliance is an important part of that. So if somebody was to suggest, and I think it was suggested recently, that we would move the industry out of Ireland, that would be a very difficult thing to do, because the regulatory issues and challenges associated with that would be significant, timely and highly risky. And this is a risk-averse industry, rightly so. And it's important that we hang on to and retain this ability. And as an association, we spend a lot of time working with the regulators and also providing training, support to our members to ensure that they can comply and do comply. The strategy document has a number of case studies in it, which I can share with you through the document after this presentation. But it's quite interesting to look at the case studies because there's a couple of features there. One, it shows you how long these companies have been in this country. Two, it shows their commitment to the country through their continual reinvestment, and all these companies behind me have reinvested significantly in their operations here in Ireland, whether that's expanding them, building new plants, adding development type activities. They've all done this. Interesting point about it as well, and it'll come in my following slide, is that for a sector which is dominated by foreign direct investment, it's a multinational-based sector, the majority of companies are still led by Irish nationals. And that's very important because we work in a competitive environment, and if you work for a multinational, competition is often internal. So you're competing within networks against plants from your same company throughout the world. So to have somebody who's fully vested in the company as well as the country is critical in terms of retaining our competitive edge and also knowing what that should be. And it's important that any strategy that we craft or put together is relevant. And for a strategy for this industry to be relevant, it's got to stand up globally. It can be a local strategy, but if it doesn't stand up globally, it won't be worth the paper it's written on. So we always talk about relevance, and it's having those people working for the companies which ensures that we know what that is and that we can align ourselves with it. So I referred to Irish talent, and there's a couple of little pen picks. These are Irish nationals who have risen within the corporate ranks, which is a testimony to a country which is very small of how well we've done. Paul Duffy, who's behind me in the top, he is the leader for all biotech and all external supply operations for Pfizer Corporation. So he's based in New York City, he commutes, and he's responsible for the entire corporate network. So he is an influential and very successful and a very hard-working individual as well. So that's very good for Ireland that he is in the boardroom of Pfizer, and he is the second Irish national who's in the boardroom of Pfizer. So that's important, especially in the current environment that we're in. Julie O'Neill, Executive Vice President for Alexion, one of the new investments coming into Ireland. They're currently constructing a substantial large molecule manufacturing site not far from here in Cruiserath. Liam Murphy from the non-pharmaceutical or chemical industry, who works for the German company Henkel. Greg Timmins, Takeda, Japanese company. He's currently based in their corporate HQ in Zurich, formerly the first Irish country manager for a Japanese country in the world, so a significant investment, fluent in Japanese as well. And finally, Dave Keenan, who is the Vice President for Global External Supply from Mallinckrodt, and they're also completing the construction of a large molecule facility, again in Cruiserath, which is not very far from here, making that part of the world, I suppose, a biotech alley or a biotech lane for the industry. The industry, that's where it is. It tends to be located in two main centres. Cork, where most of the initial investment came to, would be a hub for active pharmaceutical ingredient manufacture or chemical manufacture. But recently we're seeing more and more biotech or large molecule manufacture locating there, mainly in Eli Lilly, also in MSD, formerly Shearing Crowell in Rennie, just outside Cork. Dublin is becoming increasingly important for the sector, and a lot of the new investment has actually come into the Dublin area. So these are companies such as Alexion, whom I mentioned, Mallinckrodt, whom I mentioned, Bristol Myers Squibb, who are building a €1 billion biotech facility, again in Cruiserath. Interestingly, we're seeing some investment now starting to come into the Midlands or West. And the story in Limerick is interesting, where the old Dell facility, which, as you know, closed, has been taken over by Regeneron, which is, again, a biotech facility. And they've dropped a large molecule active ingredient plant into the existing shell of the Dell facility. So you're seeing a rebirth of that investment, and this company will employ upwards of 500 people in Limerick, which is a fantastic, I think, boost for that part of the world. So the industry is starting to spread from its former hubs of Dublin and Cork into the southeast, Waterford, the Midlands, Athlone, and also the West and Midwest, with, I suppose, AbbVie and also Allergan having significant facilities in both Sligo and Westport, beautiful part of the world. I mentioned collaboration. It's important that we work closely with the research community. Map behind me outlines the evolving infrastructure for R&D, which is mainly invested by government through Science Foundation Ireland. We work closely with NIBRT in Dublin on large molecule. We work with SSPC in Limerick, which is a multi-university and IoT collaboration with industry, which looks at crystallization and also organic synthesis. These are very important parts of the infrastructure because they help attract investment, and they also are increasingly attracting leading academics in their field to locate to Ireland. And this is important when it comes to, I suppose, broadening our investment attractiveness overseas especially. So I've got a signal to finish within the next couple of minutes, so I'll wrap up fairly closely now. Finally, a couple of comments about the current environment we see ourselves in. I believe that the sector is very important for the country. It produces a lot of value. It helped us through the darker days that we had starting in 2008. It's a very important employer, and it's great potential to grow further. Many of our graduates who come from the science fields, if they didn't have this industry, would be overseas now. So it's important that we retain the industry and we grow it. The world is a challenging place. I think we need to look to our skills and look to our abilities to ensure that we do retain this sector. And finally, to government.
Great.
I don't think that it's our place to be panicking at the moment with regards to the threats that we face, both from the east and from the west. But it's important that as a government and as a country we do not stay complacent. And this is a fast-moving world, and we need to continually look at, I suppose, the offering or the environment that we present to business in this country. So that includes infrastructure, which has already been mentioned. It's important that our infrastructure has to be state-of-the-art, because that's who we're up against in terms of competition. Taxation needs to be looked at urgently, especially at the high end for personal taxation, because if we want to attract and keep highly talented people in this country, we have to make it worth their while to some extent. So I think that's an area that we need to look at as a government. And finally, I think that we do need to ensure that our external relations remain strong with our partners and those that we trade with.